Okay, so we're going to be working on Bilt Snow Blower. It's a 24-inch snow blower. It's the Storm 2410. We had it for like about 9 years. The thing runs great, so it just needs a little minor repairs. And it was cheaper to do the repairs than it is, to go out and buy a new snow blower. So I thought I'd make a video because I'm sure some other people are running into the same issues that I have with this one right now. We hit some landscaping racks and it broke the pin on the auger, which it's supposed to protect the the person and the machine. But it also blew out a couple of the nylon bushings, and you can see the auger is really loose, and it may have knocked out the bearing, one of the bearings out of place. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take it apart. The front half has to come off, and then the whole auger system will come out of here. We're going to take it apart and replace. I ordered new bushings all the way across. There's a nylon bushing that goes in between each auger underneath, and then these are the plastic spacers, nylon spacers. We're just going to replace all of that. And I'm going to be replacing the skid plate, scraper plate in the back. You might as well put some new shoes on the side to auger the shoes, keep it off the ground, to raise it up and down. So we're going to do a little video, and I just thought I'd do a video and maybe can help some other people out on this too. So I'm going to get things together, and we'll be back in a moment, and we'll start taking this thing apart together, and we can see exactly how long it takes. I mean, I'm not expecting it to take really long, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so thought I'd give you another view of the snow blower all the way around it. And the front half of the machine is actually going to come apart. We're going to take the plastic snow thrower piece off. There's a couple bolts there. Couple bolts. We're going to take that to get it out of the way. If I have to, I may not even have to take that off. I'm thinking I just have to take off the plastic cover over the flywheel to start the flywheel section up here. Take the cover off, and then I believe we got 2 bolts on each side of the machine that'll come off there in the front half. It should actually split in half from the back half. It'll split in two, and we can take the front half off. So I'm gonna get some wrenches together, and we'll take it apart together and see how it goes. Okay, so let's looking at it. This plastic cover right here is kind of one bolt on both sides. It's a 3/8 inch bolt. I already went ahead and unscrewed it, and this cover does come off fairly easy. You just pull it up, the plastic cover, and just kind of tilt it out of there. And I'm gonna just set this here for a second. And what we have here, inside here, is the pulley assembly that actually works the auger. Try and get a better focus on this. And looks like there's room to work in there, but it's going to be a little tight, and now once it's apart, the cover's off. We're going to need to do is this first belt is pretty loose here, so you can just move it out of the way. And our next step would be to take the 4 bolts off the main housing, to put it down a little bit further. There's 2 bolts on each side of the snowblower, but there's also a spring cable that works the clutch mechanism for the auger in here. Now I do have room to knock it off. would be tight, and I'd rather not do it like that. So I'm gonna take the chute off, the snow thrower chute. This also's got 2 bolts here on this side, and there's 2 bolts on this side. So I'm gonna unbolt this to take it off to get it out of the way, so I can get at this spring and just take it off. I don't want anything to get it broke. I don't want to lose the spring in there. So I'm just gonna play it safe, and I'm gonna take the chute off. It kind of looks to be maybe a 7/16 bolts on that side. So I'm gonna get some wrenches, and we're gonna take the chute off. That's up there. Okay, so I already started knocking bolts off. They actually came right loose. There's 2 bolts there, 1 on each side and 2 on the bottom of the chute. And actually on the last bolt, be off in a second. It's a 7/16 bolt. This is off, we should be able to lift the chute off and just move it to the side. Okay, so the chute is coming off, just lifts right off, and I'm not going to disconnect the control arm from the rest of the snow blower. I'm just going to let it lay right there. It's really not in the way at all. In the bolt itself, it's got the little, square nut on there, locks in place from the other side. So, just gives us a little bit more room to work in here. Pushing the pulley in, I want to try and pop that spring off, which I guess I'm going to need just a screwdriver to give me a helping hand with that. I think I'll actually use needle nose pliers there. It's just a spring on that shaft in there. And the pulley, you can just push the pulley and it moves. You can get the spring off. That just disconnects that cable. I don't want that getting broke. I'm just gonna hang that in here, let that hang there. And I think our next step is going after the 4 bolts on the main housing, which again, like I said, there's 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, and again 2 on the other side. And once those are off, I believe this whole front half should just tilt right off and give us working room to work on the auger. So again, I'm gonna get some wrenches and we'll take it from there. Okay, so working on those 4 bolts on the main housing. Again, there's 1 bolt on top, 1 on bottom, and the same on this side. So it's actually a 1/2 inch bolt. I used the socket for it and knocked it off. It maybe took 2 or 3 minutes at the most. And I do believe, oh, you can see it's loose already. So what you want to do is just tilt it. And it comes apart. The back half is back heavy, so it wants to lay down, so you got to hold it. And you can actually see the front half has these little, like a fork on the bottom that fits into back half. So it kind of like just swivels, it swings in there, kind of like a hinge type thing. So I'm going to lay the front half down. And the back half, I'm just going to move out of the way and lean it against the table so it don't break. So that takes off our unit. And I had a block of wood here to open it up. So I can simply knit it. And spin this around, get a better look. And then we'll put black wood right here down to hold it up. Just so we can get an idea of what we're going to do. So here's the belt that we took off from the other side. So I actually got a bolt like a guide right there. So we'll leave that on for the moment. What we're going to do is we're going to unbolt this pulley right here. We'll take that bolt out. The pulley should come off fairly easy. And we'll get some tools and we'll go from there. Okay, so we're back. Bolt right there, we're going to take the pulley off. Again, that's a 1/2 inch bolt. I got my socket here. And it's actually really tight. So it wants to turn. So I just take a scrap piece of wood and I'm putting it in between, kind of lock on the inside auger, keep the assembly from turning. Wow, I break it loose. There we go. And as you can see, the pulley comes right off. There's 2 washers on the bolt. Keep the belt there. I believe this comes right off. It's just to hold the pulley in place. That's kind of just like a guide, a washer, like a spacer for the pulley. That comes off also. Now this section right here, we're not going to have to mess with this at all. This is actually a bearing that's bolted to the housing, and we don't have to play with that at all. What we're going to do is turn this around, and we're going to work on the front and disconnect the auger at the 2 sides. And this whole shaft, the whole assembly should slide out the front without even playing with the bearing assembly. So let me put this stuff down, I'll turn it around, and we'll get to work on the next section. Okay, so I turned the whole assembly around, the camera around, so we can get at the front of this. And that pulley and everything is at the back of the shaft, this housing, on the back side of this housing. So what we need to do, this housing, you have the 2 caps, 1 cap on both sides, which is held in by 2 bolts on each side, and that's also a 1/2 inch bolt. And we'll unbolt it from the outside here, 2 bolts, and it'll loosen this housing up. And what we should be able to do once we take the bolts out is this whole assembly should be able to slide right out. Like I say, we don't have to mess with that bearing in the back, that's in there permanent. But this whole thing should come just forward when we take the bolts out. So we'll start taking some bolts out, and I'm going to save some camera time here and take a couple bolts out, and we'll finish up together in a couple minutes. Okay, I just wanted to show you the 2 bolts before we even get started. You can see them on the side of the main housing here. You got 2 main bolts right here. And we're just going to pop those 2 bolts out. That's actually the side guide plates. And we're also going to be replacing later on. It's the set the height for the snow blower as you're dragging it, going across the sidewalk. You don't want to really drag in. You want to set up in the air. And these are pretty much worn out. There's really nothing left to them. So we'll get to all that in a little bit. Okay, so taking the bolts out. I had the 2 bolts on the other side out already. You can see the cap moving as I take it. It's just the whole assembly is loose. I got the bolts loose. They're coming right out. And now this whole assembly should just slide forward and slide right out of the housing. And there we go. So that just slides right out, and that's going to give us the access we need. These caps should pop right off, slide right off. You can see there's nylon bushings on both ends. I actually bought new bushings all the way across because I know a couple, the inner bushings, you can see how the shafts, the auger is wobbling on the shaft, so the bushing is like gone. It shouldn't be that bad. Like this one's fairly tight. So the bushings, you can pretty much look up your model online and you'll find a diagram and you'll get the part numbers for your model. This is the Bilt Snow 2410. This is pretty much the same snowblower as Craftsman, is a MTY, I believe. Bilt, several other models like that all use the same design. You can get the parts fairly easy once you get your model number. You can look the diagram up online, and you can order the parts on eBay. You got people selling all this stuff, all the replacement parts. And these parts actually come off. You know, you pull the pins out, this stuff just slides apart. So it's fairly easy to do. While we have it all apart, like I mentioned before, I'm going to replace the inner skid plate, the ice cutting plate that's down there, and I'm going to put the snowshoes on, the snow skids on, and you can see I got some bends in there. There's a damage hitting, so I'm just going to spray the metal out a little bit before I put it all together. But this is it. It came out, and if you give me a couple minutes, I'll be right back, and we'll start taking this apart and replacing the pieces we need. Okay, so I'm back. As we take it apart, we're just going to lay the pieces out in a straight line of how it came apart so we can put it back in the same order. We have those safety pins that are made to, the shear pins that are made to break off if you hit something hard on the auger. You just pull the pin out. This is one of the locking pins. It pops out. Let's start with the cap. So the cap's off, the nylon bushing, and the washer. We're just going to lay them in order. I take the pin out in the clip. I lay that right there. The first auger should come right off. And what this auger is missing is the outside bushing. It fell apart. The inside bushing is still here. It's in kind of raggedy shape. Would still be usable, but I bought all new ones. So we're gonna lay that there. Just lay this stuff out in order, the way it goes. And you get the inside spacer. And we'll take the next pin out. Take the pins off, put it in there. The next auger comes apart. Just come out. And this one has the spacer, the inside spacer, which came off on that one, so that it will stay there. And then the spacer for this side. That's it. And that's how the assembly comes apart. So. There's years of rust in here. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit. I'm just going to wipe it down. I get some WD-40, clean the shaft off, Then I'm going to get the new parts and we're going to just reassemble this auger into pieces. So I will be right back. Okay, so we're back. Basically what we're going to do, I got a can of WD-40. Okay, just fell apart. Just going to spray the shaft down. That's just going to help lubricate it in the future, get some of the rust off. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to start backwards from the assembly process. We got a spacer. As I said, I bought them on eBay. They're all brand new. It's just a lot of replacement manufacturers selling these parts for the snow blowers. It's identical to the old one, just a little bit better shape. My old one would probably stay and work. But I didn't know how bad they would be because, as I said, I know one of them broke and came out. So I thought I would just buy and replace them all. That just slides in there. Then I got a package with two of the inner bushings for the auger. It just slides in there. Take the old one out. Just slides there in there on the blade. And it just slides in and you can just see it just fits so nice now. Now, let me take the next one. The spacer between the two shafts. Then two of the inner bushings. And these just fit right in. They got a groove, they fit right in. And it's going to slide on the shaft like that. Okay, so this first one we're going to, we got the pin that holds it in, push it all the way in, and we're just going to find where that slot is. Let me take the back one off. Just slides in the pin. Now we put the safety clip pin on. Just goes through the hole, push it down, it's locked in place. And now we will slide this one on. Which is really only one way it can go on. You can see it's not going to line up correctly if you don't let it hit each other. Again, slide the pin through the hole. Lock it in place, it's done. Our last step, I'm actually not going to put this on yet because that will be the last one for the cap. It goes on there to lock the whole thing in place and go with the new cap. It actually has a bushing, so I'm going to put it there and remove all the old parts. We don't want them mixed up. I'm going to use them again. And that's it. This half's done. I just need to take the other side apart and we can get that on there and get it done. Okay, so we're back to finish up the second side. Which As you see, it should be fairly easy. Just pop the bins out, slide the old parts off. And we're going to clean the shaft up a little bit. Just help make it smooth and some of the rust off and a little extra lubricant on there. Okay, so we'll wipe out the new parts over here. Just slides in on both sides. Friction. Spacer goes in first. Now slides in. Okay. Slide the pin in. Safety clip to hold it. And put the next spacer. The next auger, pull the clip out. Bushings in. And that one slides in. We just put the next clip, pin in. Drop the clip in. It's done. And that just leaves putting the end caps on, pushing in the caps, and bolting it in. But I'm not going to do that yet. This is all done. That was the main reason for taking it apart. As long as this is off, I'm going to set the whole unit to the side. And then I'm going to work on replacing it as long as it's off and I got the extra space. Ice plate back there, the scraper plate, and this skid shoes, which should only take a short time to do that. Now it's off. So let me move all this to the side, clean up here, and I will flip that over and start working on that. Okay, so I'm back. I just stood the front housing up on the side to make it a little easier to get at the skid plate. That's on there, the original skid plate. Here's the replacement one that go on there. These unbolt on the sides, it's got 2 bolts on there. You know, bolt it, you take that off, and you just put the new one on and bolt it right on. And that gives you an adjustment for height with the snow. You know, and as the plate wears down, you gotta adjust this out through the ears. They really don't last long, they're made to be replaced. You can see I haven't replaced it in a long time. This is all worn out. On the old one, it's gone. And while it's off, I'm gonna actually take a pliers and I'm gonna put it on the front housing and just straighten out a couple of these bends that are on here. So I'm just leaning it on the back right now to just make it a little easier. So I'm gonna finish taking this off. Directly how bad they're actually worn out. The old one, I mean, the whole lip is gone, the whole edge. So it's still doing its job, but as long as it's coming apart, just replacing it, put all new stuff on there and be done with it. Before I put that back on, as I said, I'm just going to put the layers on there. I'm going to bend the housing back straight. We got landscaping racks on some of the sidewalks, and as you push through the snow, you really don't know how close you are. So kind of can kind of hit the edge every now and then. So just straighten it out, make the housing look a little better. That's pretty much it. Plate back on. Put the bolts on. And just gonna snug it in place for now. The final, once the snowblower is all together again, you have to slide this up and down to adjust it for the height, because you really don't want it sliding on the ground, which this one was for a while. But we'll get it all straightened out. Okay, it's on there. I'm going to flip it over. We'll do the same thing with the other side. And once we get the other front shoe on there, then we will unbolt the plate in the back, the scraping plate. Okay, so I'm back. When I was putting the skid shoes on, I didn't realize one of the bolt holes also was shared with the scraper bar. So I had to take the skid shoes back off so I can take the old ice scraper off. So I took that off, put the new one on, I bolted it on. There's 4 bolts on the underside plus 1 that goes through the skid shoe. So I bolted it back on, and for now I just put these bolts in the middle, halfway, because once the snowblower is all together again and sitting level on the ground, then we'll have to adjust these out for our height. So for right now, halfway is good. And I gotta reset the camera and turn. Okay, so we are back for the. Okay, so we are back for the reassembly. As you see, the main assembly's got this little shaft that we're going to slide through that bearing, and then we're going to slide the whole thing in as a unit. We'll try to. Okay, it's really not that hard. So we're going to slide it through. And the back of this bell housing on here actually is on the back here. It's going to help me guide it. So it actually just slid right in place. It slid right through the opening. And on these side caps, you've got 2 bolts, one on each. And these caps here. Going to get the bolt started. You don't want to tighten them up yet until you get it all the bolts in, so you know it's being held in place correctly. Okay. I do believe that's it. And we are going to tighten these bolts up now. Just give them a quick snug. that is it. I just need to tighten them up. I was just double checking the clearance. Okay. Now our next step is going to be, I'm going to move the camera to the side so I can show how we're going to tilt that unit to mount the front back on. Well, I'm jumping the gun here. We got to put that pulley back on. So give me a minute to reset the camera and turn the front housing around, and we'll put the pulley on and get it ready. Okay, so we're back one more time. Sure. And it's all back in place. I'm going to do it all in reverse order. So here's that little plate that we took off of there that holds the pulley, and you can see the markings. You can only put it on one way. It fits in the grooves there. Pulley fits those 3 grooves into place. And to put that in place, I had to pull this pulley out of the way because it's got a little bracket down here. Snug this up a little bit. Oh, you know what? I see some. I need to put this belt around the pulley right now because I can see it's not going to fit. Go on afterwards. So. If I would have tightened that up, I wouldn't have been able to get it past the stoppers, which kind of look like they're on there to keep the belt from shooting off. I'm going to snug this up. It's in place. And again, put the board through the propeller, through the auger to hold it in place. So it gives me, so I can tighten this up again. Okay. So now that's good to go. Now I can turn the camera off and we can put it in place and reassemble this. And I'll show you how it kind of clicks together. Okay, so I got it in place. It's not on. We're going to do that together so you can see how it mounts. I put it in front of it, and you know, it's hard to see, but on the bottom you can see this has like a groove, half circle groove. And what we're going to do is we're going to put that inside the housing where it goes, and it actually snaps together like a little latch, and it goes over the piece inside. It pulls itself together so everything lines up. So I'll zoom in a little bit on that so you can kind of get a better idea. And then once it's together, then you can reinstall by hand a couple of the screws on both sides. And so we're going to lift it. I'm going to line the pieces up inside the housing. And there you can kind of see how it just goes together. You just need to hold that spring out of the way from right now. So together. Let's just snap that belt down for right now. And keep that spring and cable out of the way. And we just pushed it together. What we're going to do, stick the two bolts. Just start them by hand. It's 2 on each side. That's all it takes. Okay, so now before I tighten that up, I'm going to get my needle nose pliers. I'm going to snap that cable with the spring. It goes on this idler pulley. It keeps tension on the belt. So I just need to try to stay out of the way so you can may or may not be able to do it, just so you can see the spring. Angle. Okay, I'm gonna have to get right where the camera's at, so to do this, so I'm gonna have to move the camera and see if I can get an angle for you. Okay. I got the spring back on. It wasn't the easiest thing, but what I found out is I was having a hard time getting the needle nose pliers in there to hold it. But this bracket right here, if you take the one bolt off, this little pulley holds the cable. Take that bolt off, it loosens up the tension on the cable, and then you can put it on like really easy, and then you just bolt the bracket back on. So while doing it, I found an easier way to do it. Now, we're almost finished with the reassembly. Everything's tightened up. We're just going to put the shield cover back on. There's 2 bolts there. And then there's 4 bolts on the cover. And I'm going to go ahead and bolt that on and save us some camera time. I mean, it's all of 10 minutes worth of bolts, and it's just basic. Everything's out in the open. So I'm going to go ahead and put those on for us right now. Okay guys, got everything back on. Got the chute on, the other cover, everything's bolted. I went ahead already and I adjusted the ice scraper bar on the ground. Basically what I do, see the new one's actually black down there. What I normally do is I lift this up and I put like a piece of cardboard on the ground. I have it on flat ground. I put a piece of cardboard under there. Maybe a double up on a piece of cardboard. Just so there's some kind of gap between that and the ground. And then while the cardboard's under there holding it up, when you loosen the 2 shoes up on both sides, the plates, and you lower them to the ground so it's actually sitting on the ground, and then retighten them up. So this way when you take the cardboard out, you actually have a little bit of a gap between that ice plate and the ground. If you leave it dragging on the ground, you not only like scrape up your cement or your stones if you have like patio blocks, but you can see the plate, how the wear and tear through the years, how it just wore out from dragging on the ground. And so you just set it up in there, and for the most part you can run it like that for a season. If it is dragging, lower the plates down a little more to the ground. You know, the lower the plates, it raises the unit up off the ground. You really don't need this dragging on the ground to clean the snow. I mean, you don't want to. We got patio blocks out here and some nice cement in the back, and you really don't want to be scraping and scuffing everything up. So just raise it a little off the ground. That's all you need. And then retighten the plates. And everything's set. It's got new bushings. I got my electric starter on there. I'll start it up. It's going to be noisy. I'll show you the blades, everything working on there. And that's really it. It's good to go. I live in the Chicago area, just north of Chicago, so we get a lot of snow out here, and I'm waiting for winter time. I love playing out in the snow with the snowblower. And just basic maintenance. They take your WD-40 and just spray across where all the bushings are, the seams. It does not hurt at all. Just go over everything, keep it lubricated. Do that a couple times through winter time also. Just lubricate it. I mean, as I said, this thing's like, I had it 9 or 10 years. They went through a lot of storms, some heavy snow. But it's in great shape yet for 9 years old. I mean, that's the first maintenance I had to really do on it in all this time, was replace the bushings. A lot of that's because keep it lubricated. Thanks for watching the video. If it was helpful, please click like on there, subscribe to our videos, and thank you again.